we woke up at the sound of gunshots. So I remember getting up, rushing to my mother's room, my heart boom, boom, boom. What's going on? And the sound was deafening, you know? That's the first thing that came to her, to send a message to Cairo that she's an Egyptian, she has 3 young children. Could they please do something so that we leave Ghana safely? When they are moving us from a tank to a jeep, they had the tip of the gun was on her nape. So she's sitting in the jeep in front of us, and we are at the back. She's between 2 soldiers, and she thought something was going to happen.
Oof.
Yeah, and she screamed.
So as a 6-year-old, how are you processing everything as it's happening?
I was terrified.
Yeah.
I mean, I was crying from the moment we left the house. I think I honestly can say that I didn't stop crying till we got in the plane. From the moment our father began the independence struggle, he was attacked. If not vilified, then assassination attempts on his life. And when he came to power, attempted coup d'etats. They were always betrayers. 7 assassination attempts on his life, the first one in 1955, 2 years before independence. They didn't give him a moment's rest. We were lucky. We were lucky.
You.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
So, Honorable, I want to visit the day, February 24th, 1966. That's the day your dad was overthrown in a coup here in Ghana. You were just about 6 years old?
Yes, a few months short of my 6th birthday. Yes.
What do you remember from that day?
Oh dear, I remember everything.
Ooh, tell me everything.
I remember everything, at least what happened to us, the family.
Yeah.
Because as you can imagine, it was quite traumatic.
Yeah.
So by the time we realized something is wrong, there was this battle going on in the grounds of Flagstaff House. That's the presidential residence where we lived with our father. He, of course, as we know, was not in the country.
China, right? Yes.
He was on his way to Hanoi to broker a peace between Washington and Hanoi. He actually had proposals. He had proposals for a peace deal. The Vietnamese president at the time chose him. He nominated him. He said he's the leader he would want to negotiate. And he had deferred this trip 3 times. He didn't want to go because he had intelligence from Egypt, from other quarters, that it wasn't the right time to go. But at the end, Washington assured him that they will stop the bombing for some days, because there was a war going on, if you can.
Yes.
And so he decided it would be good for Ghana, it would be good for Africa, and it would be good for world peace, because there were a group of leaders who were the non-aligned movement who were talking about it. But even leaders like before that, even in the West, JFK, before had, if you hear what he was saying about the Vietnam War, it was almost very similar to what our father was saying. You know, war is not good, and it's not good for even smaller nations which are trying to develop. You know, we have that saying, when the elephants fight, the grass, is damaged. So anyway, mercifully, our father was not in the country. And we woke up at the sound of gunshots.
So this was early in the morning?
Dawn, yes, dark, still dark.
Wow.
Yes, the 3 of us, myself and my 2 brothers, we slept in the same room. So I remember getting up, rushing to my mother's room, my heart boom, boom, boom. What's going on? And the sound was deafening, you know? And I took one look at mother's face, but before I could say anything, she said, "Where's your younger brother?" Because our youngest, Sekou, was 2 years old. So I rushed back to pick him up and come, and the three of us just found ourselves in our mother's room, and we heard her speaking on the phone in Arabic. She had the presence of mind to contact the Egyptian ambassador at the time. And she said that's the first thing that came to her, to send a message to Cairo that she's an Egyptian, she has 3 young children. Could they please do something so that we leave Ghana safely? Because she understood immediately what was happening. So
she knew what was happening.
It came to her, yes, immediately she knew what. And then...
was there anything that had happened before that gave her some sort of indication that this... You said she knew instantly what was happening. How did she know?
Okay, there was a gathering storm, as we would say. I mean, but in truth, from the moment our father began the independence struggle, he was attacked. If not vilified, then assassination attempts on his life. And when he came to power, attempted coup d'etats. There were always betrayers and machinations. I mean, you could see that when you look through his writings, when you talk to people who worked with him, when I speak to our mother, that he was harassed and attacked consistently. Of course, it got worse as the Cold War got more intense. Now you're talking about mid-late 60s. It got more intense. And as we moved from an politically independent country to a country that is trying to become economically independent. I mean, that's the real story, because you are asserting your independence in a way, in a very big way, you know. You want to build your industries. You want to do business with the East and with the West. His famous statement, we neither look East nor West, we look forward. Being a founding member of the non-aligned movement. So you could see that this was a leader who was taking a different path.
A bold stance.
Thank you, Sandra. And above all, his promoting African unity. And not just African unity, but a union government of independent African states. This is a novel idea. I think we skip over it. We think he was just saying African unity. No. He had clear proposals for how an Africa must unite. You can call it a federation today, but that was the idea. Not just a loose thing, agreeing on different agreements here and there. No. Proper political unity. Because according to him, that's the only way we are going to unite or integrate our economies, eventually our education, our social life. But it begins with a common political basis. So to answer your question, he was targeted. 7 assassination attempts on his life. The first one in 1955, 2 years before independence. Several assassination attempts on his life, on sometimes the lives of some of the relatives, his ministers, colleagues. So there was always danger. They didn't give him a moment's rest.
So your mom in that moment, hearing the commotion, just knew instantly.
Yes.
This is the day we feared. It's finally here.
Yes, it was too loud and it was...
So she makes that phone call. So then what happened after that?
We quickly start dressing up, just simple things, whatever we could find. And then suddenly the noise abates. Oh, but before that, she did something typical of a, let's say an African woman who believes, our father used to say we are spiritual beings. She asked us to pray. So we all knelt down. I remember our hands clasped, pray, please, God, please protect us. So, and when we finished, she said something that only mothers can say. She said, you know something? Even if they fire at you, nothing is going to happen to you. And as a child, that is, of course, great comfort. Your mother's saying that, And then the noise abates suddenly. and we are told to a microphone, we must leave the house with nothing, just the clothes on our backs. So we had our nanny spending the night with us, and we got ready. They bundled us in sheets, white sheets, and we got into a car. And from that moment on till the end of the day, till we arrived at the airport, from that moment on, we were under, let's say, the mercy and directions of the soldiers, the coup soldiers.
Wow.
I mean, when I say the noise abated, it turned out that the presidential guard had laid down their arms. And we learned later that they were, let's say they were threatened that if they don't stop fighting, they are going to come for us in the house. So a decision was made that they have to lay down. They were ready to die.
Wow.
But they decided for our safety to lay down the arms, and that's how that battle ended. They surrendered, and we were taken to different Burma camp here. Long story. I've narrated everything in the book I'm writing. But anyway, we end up at the police headquarters, which looks just the same, Ring Road.
Wow.
Except it's nicely painted now, freshly painted.
The one in Accra.
Yes, Ring Road. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. You went up the stairs. I remember very well. We were sitting up with the commander until the Egyptians, the embassy staff and the charge d'affaires, they came to take us to the airport, where we waited for an Egypt Air flight, just completely empty, just to take us to Cairo.
Egypt. Wow.
Yes, that was after a whole day of adventures, of course.
So as a 6-year-old, how are you processing everything as it's happening?
Yeah, I was terrified.
Yeah.
I mean, I was crying from the moment we left the house. I think I honestly can say that I didn't stop crying till we got in the plane. That was the moment I stopped. But out of sheer terror, I was terrified that they would separate us. They didn't harm us, truth be told. There were even young men who were scared. I could see them sweating, the hands trembling when they were holding, the machine guns. They didn't know what to do, half of them. But the scene was terrifying, of course. So that gave me a taste of, I mean, this was politics in the 60s, post-independence. I mean, this is what many nations had to go through in different ways. And we were lucky. We were lucky. I can't imagine if mother was not from another country. I don't know what would have happened to us.
Yeah.
I don't know where we would have been taken. So we even had an easier time than many who were left behind.
So you're crying. Your mom, what do you remember about, just going through that experience and going into the flight? What was her reaction?
I don't know where she got the strength from.
Yeah.
But she was so strong, composed too, I would say. Because at a certain point when they are moving us from a tank to a jeep, they had the gun, the tip of the gun was on her nape. So she was,
oh my
I mean, they were, they
had the gun pointed at her.
Just so she's sitting in the jeep in front of us.
Oh my
and
God.
We at the back. She's between two soldiers and with the gun pointed. But she was composed. The only time I saw her slightly, disoriented was when they were ordering us to get out, and they were holding the guns, so they were just pointing at my older brother, and saying to get out. And she thought something was going to happen.
Oof.
Yeah, and she screamed, and there was some commotion, but I don't think they would have harmed us.
Oof.
So it was quite traumatic, and obviously for children, for her too, I'm sure. But she was so composed and strong. I think she held herself together as mothers do, of course.
For you all.
Yes, for all of us.
I can imagine what that experience it must have been like. So how did your life change after that day?
Drastically. Drastically, because it was total uprootedness. You know, you're taken from your familiar surroundings. We even had a homeschool in Flagstaff House, my brother and I, my older brother and I. So anyway, total to a different culture, different people. The Egyptians were very kind. I mean, I keep on saying to this day, we would not have survived mentally, even without that arriving at a place which became our home.
Yeah.
And that's, again, to a large extent, it's thanks to the good friendship that our father enjoyed with President Gamal Abdel Nasser. It was a political friendship, personal friendship. You know, there were allies, both bold, strong men, anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist. They spoke the same language, and they also, like Egypt, like most of North African countries, they were instrumental in the founding of the OAU. A lot of people don't know that. So when I hear from some of us Africa say, no, North Africa, leave it, I say, well, you don't know the history. North Africa was essential in the founding of the OAU, which is now the AU, but in addition, they helped many liberation movements to gain independence. I mean, when we arrived in Egypt, who do we find? Who did we get to meet? The family of Patrice Lumumba. Because in 1961, Egypt stepped in also to take them. They sought refuge in Egypt. And they even stayed longer than us. So their Arabic was better than us because they went to university there. We returned during the Achampong's regime. We returned in late 1975. But Lumumba's family stayed on.
They stayed longer in Egypt.
So, yes. So there we meet Lumumba's family and we get to know them. And imagine Lumumba's family and Nkrumah's family are speaking fluent Arabic together. I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's because these leaders saw eye to eye, worked toward, they had a shared vision. And of course, I think Egypt seemed like the right place for them to seek refuge after the assassination of their father.
Your dad, he was a prophet, right? You mentioned when you look at the turn of events and how everything happened, it's almost like he knew the future, you know, and he was ahead of his time in so many ways.
Absolutely. I mean, you said the right word because that's the conclusion I've come to. I mean, yes, he's my father, my biological father, but in reality, he's my leader. And he is a prophet because he came, he surveyed the scene, he acted, he didn't just talk and write, but he entered the arena. He sacrificed everything for his life work. He didn't think about himself. He decided not to own anything. He didn't amass wealth. All this was deliberate. It wasn't by chance. He wanted to lead by example. For him, politics was seriously a way of changing the destiny of Africans everywhere. And he gave us a blueprint. So he didn't just practice politics, but he gave us a blueprint and a lot of advice. And he said it in many ways. He spoke it in his speeches. He put it in his books, over 15 books, aside from the pamphlets. A lot of people don't know that, obviously, because his whole thought was suppressed after the illegal overthrow of his government. But I am convinced that the day we study Kwame Nkrumah, Africa will never be the same. to never be the same. And you have the blueprint, not just for development, what a development state should do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you hear economists today or thinkers talking, not just Africans, people like Jeffrey Sachs and others, you would think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Kwame Nkrumah. Let's listen to them, because that's the same thing our father was saying 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So and the blueprint for African unity, I haven't seen anything like this till today.
Yeah.
I'm yet to see it. So I would like the younger generation to revisit and study it. And like I always tell my friends, we don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with everything Kwame Nkrumah said or wrote, but familiarize yourself with it. You know, that's the first port of call. Familiarize yourself and then see what we can do with it.
Yeah.
Because it's not by a coincidence for Ghana, for Africa, to have a leader of that caliber passing by the last century. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
You know, they came to deliver, and they are the future, because they can still deliver us from the confusion we are in.
Yeah.
You know? So
and
you're right. Prophet is the right word.
And I think, Samia, a lot of what you're saying has to do with the fact that we don't own our narrative. And that's why I'm here to do this sit down with you, because for so long, Nkrumah's story, especially in this, you know, social media age, where everyone can pick up a camera and go on social media and say whatever they want. Our stories have been filtered through Western lens. They've been told by everyone else but us. And I think particularly for this generation, it is so important for us to use the tools that are available to us to reclaim that narrative. And that's why I'm so thrilled that you are doing this. I'm thrilled that you're writing a book, which we're going to talk about. I can't wait to dig in. But I want to go back to after the coup. So when did you hear from your father again? When did you talk to him and hear his voice again?
Good. I mean, that same day, at the end of the day, so it was maybe midnight in Cairo or beyond, he was in China, because that's when he heard the news. I mean, the Chinese were so respectful. They received him.
Yeah.
They didn't tell him the news immediately at the airport. They waited until he rested in his room before they came to tell him. So anyway, so when he received the news, then he calls us. He knows we are in Cairo by then. So he calls us. And why do I remember this? Because it's one of the most memorable things that he told me that I remember, because he spoke to each and every one of us, obviously trying to calm us down or reassure us. And his voice was calm, soft. But when it was my turn, he said, Yaba. He always called me by my, Ghanaian name. He said, Yaba, I don't want you to be afraid. And there I'm thinking he must have known that I was crying the whole day. Oh, I told him. But not knowing, I think he was giving me a bigger message, because he kept on saying, Yaba, be strong. Don't be afraid. I don't want you to be afraid. I want you to be strong. And I took this to heart, you know, to the extent that our mother always used to say, you are the strong one. You are the strong one. But so anyway, so he got in touch with us that same day. And of course, he goes to Conakry, Guinea to live there. We are in Cairo. We never meet because, what was told to us was that it was not safe.
Not safe.
Don't forget, he was a wanted man in Ghana. There was a price on his head. There were attempted assassination attempts in Guinea. There was an invasion in 1970. They almost got him, Sikutori, Cabral. I mean, it was a miracle they were not in the same place, not even in their houses. So anyway, we don't see each other for those 6 years. But he writes, not frequently. These are the 60s, you know, there was not like the internet and
where you could email, no emails.
Yes, so you had to use the old phone. So not much, and of course Guinea was under tremendous pressure also. But that's how we communicated. Some letters. once in a while a phone call.
Oh my God. Tell me something memorable that you remember from one of his letters to you back then.
Oh, his letters were very practical. He was most concerned about us. Are we eating with vegetables? Are we?
Yeah, but make sure you eat your vegetables.
Yes. Are we being good to mother? Yeah. And we were all like him. We were sprinters. He was a sprinter. And we all somehow became sprinters. So no, but I remember when I was up till the age of 14, nobody could beat me with 100 meters.
Really?
So he was also about sports. Yes. Are we doing it? So his letters, I must admit, were very practical. I think he didn't want to bother us with the challenges. We didn't even know when he was sick. So I think he just wanted to help us focus on our new life and how to get on. I mean, this is how we were brought up this way too. Even in Ghana, he never spoiled us. He didn't like our mother dressing us, me especially. Of course, I'm the only girl there. All the time, new clothes. I remember him saying, don't spoil them. You don't have to have these new eggs. You don't have to eat eggs every day. People are not. So we were never spoiled.
Yeah.
So also in our dealings, he was very practical. Mother too. And
at that age, did you understand the magnitude of who your father was to Africa, to the world? Or to you, was he just dad? You know?
Not right away, but obviously he was never just dad, because I remember some of the visitors to Flagstaff House. I remember even the pictures. We had Che Guevara's picture there, Sheikh Ibrahim Anyas of the Senegal. I mean, it was a strange life from a child's point of view. So we knew that this is not an ordinary man. No, we knew it. He was also very busy. Yes, he would come and go, but he wasn't always there. So no, to answer your question, yes, very early on, we understood that, our father had something very important to do. And of course, as we grew up and became more curious and became a bit acquainted with his work, even though we were scared of politics and anything to do with politics, and even of Ghana, I mean, that was another drama when we were invited back, and we were terrified. I mean, we didn't even, I must confess, in late 75, we didn't even want to come. But our mother stepped in and said, no, your father would want you to connect with this is your home. Your home. Yeah. This is your country. You have to come back, return, understand the culture, the people. That's what he would have wanted. So that's when, of course, we started understanding his mission.
So did you see your father again after the coup?
No, we didn't. Wow. And it was only 6 years. I say only because in the life of a nation, that's not too long, It's
take me back to the day that you heard the news, right? That your father had passed away. Do you remember that day and just the emotion? What did you feel?
Yes, of course. It was a very odd day, and like with many strange things in your life, you wonder why we didn't ask more questions.
Yeah.
Because ironically, early in the day, an official from the foreign minister of Egypt comes to tell us that our father is coming.
Oh, that he's coming home.
So there we are, we are dressed in our fineries. I remember exactly what mother was wearing, this beautiful dark pink dress. And then, by the end of the day, they come to tell us the bad news. So I remember getting up and just like, because but mind you.
You're expecting to see your dad, and they tell you your dad.
Till today, from the shock, from everything that has happened after, I don't know why we didn't sit and talk, because everything happened quickly after that, coming to Conakry for the first funeral. Then our mother would come to Ghana for the second one. I mean, everything happened. My mother coming back, of course, collapsing from exhaustion when she came back from Ghana, and yes, total nervous breakdown. She couldn't leave her room for months. I mean, that was the only time, that was the first and only time I saw our mother weak. The shock, the realization that the man she loved, the man she looked up to and she was hoping to be reunited with at some point. It would not happen. So they were only together for 8 years, and mother was young, beautiful young woman. So I think that was, and of course she never remarried. She never wanted to. She never could. But to answer your question,
how do you marry again after marrying someone like Nkrumah, right? No one.
We all understand. Yes,
no one can cut it. No one cuts it after that.
Yeah. So
wow, but that's strange. I mean, why would they? So was that a setup? Why would they tell you your father is coming?
Look, I find it most surprising that we never looked into what actually happened. What happened? We never talked about it. We just became engulfed in that, let's say, the grief, the shock and grief of mourning for him. But don't forget, we had received a blow 2 years earlier when President Gamal Abdel Nasser died, also prematurely, very, very early. He was only 52.
Yeah.
Because he was like an uncle or a father for us. So he passes away in 70. And our father in 72. So already, things were looking a bit shaky, emotionally, at least for us. And anyway, so of course we accepted it. And coming to Guinea was a great education because there we meet with Fidel Castro, with Sékou Touré himself, who was a great ally and friend. Cabral, I mean, all these, took us into a different world, and I think they took the grief away by, being very busy, seeing all these leaders, all the people who worked, Miriam Makeba, Kwame Nkrumah, the African-American chap who worked with our father, and so many other people. I mean, we were engulfed in this very interesting world of Pan-Africanism and solidarity. And so it made us see another aspect of our life. And that somehow lessened the pain or the confusion about losing our father.
Wow. So you come to Guinea for his funeral.
First funeral, state funeral.
Did you get to see his body? Did you have an opportunity?
Mother did. We didn't.
Okay.
I think she wanted to spare us.
Yeah, sure. Too young.
So we didn't, which in hindsight, of course, it was a good thing.
Sense.
We were still young. I was 11. I mean, it was still not the age that you can handle things. But we started thinking, of course, deeply about him, our lives. We started learning. I can see
at this point you're a teenager, right? Or
11.
Okay,
11,
so not quite yet.
Yeah, pre-teenage.
But you still had some sort of understanding of what was happening. Yeah.
Yes. Understanding and knowing that we are moving between these African countries easily, and but wherever we go, there's this acknowledgement that
one thing I read
did something
that really broke my heart is that your father died alone and in silence. I don't know if it's true, because nowadays, we read so many things. But is that true? What can you tell us about how he died?
Okay, our father was sick. I mean, what I even did, our father was ill, and at a certain point, it was felt that he needed an operation, probably, or better medical treatment. I mean, so he left Guinea to Romania, because he had a very good Romanian doctor who used to actually come to Ghana before the coup d'etat.
Okay.
So he knew her, and they were corresponding. And so he had to go there, have an operation, but he was there with his, let's say his nephew, the young man who was with him, helping him. You know, through African tradition, you always have someone with you, and with a few others too, including the Guinean protocol officer, one Mr. Kamara. So he was not on his own.
Okay.
And his literally executrix, June Milne, his confidant, the woman who really helped him greatly with his work, research before the coup and after, and she remained very loyal to him. I mean, it's June who ultimately gave me all our father's books. So she also was going up and down, and she was there when he passed away.
Okay.
So alone, I mean, he wasn't physically alone.
Yeah. Okay.
He wasn't physically alone.
So that's the official report that, you know, he died, he was sick. Some people say prostate cancer.
Yes.
But then there's speculations, right, as well around, you know, your father being a target, right? There are some people say, you know, he was poisoned, his chef died, you know, a few months. So there's a lot of speculation around, was he really sick, or was there more to it than we know?
Well, he got sick.
Yeah.
Now, June Milne has always claimed that in her opinion, something must have happened. It's very possible that he was poisoned. And she says that because his trusted cook, Mr. Amwa, who, I remember, who had traveled with him, and so he was with him in Guinea. There was an entourage of several men, almost 100 or so. So he died suddenly and quickly. He got ill and died very quickly. And after that, June said she felt the kitchen was never safe. I mean, there were different hands coming and going, and so she thinks that could be a factor. But I also remember vividly a story our mother told me, real life story, after the Kolungugu bombing in 1962. I mean, it's well documented, that assassination attempt on his life. So it's what happened in Upper East, Northern Ghana, after he'd met the then president of Burkina. And so the entourage was, they stopped at a school, and these young children were giving him a bouquet, and it explodes. The 2 children die on the spot, and other people, but our father's bodyguards, they push him to the ground, which is the safest position when there are explosions. But what happens? The shrapnel, the lead, goes all over his back, and he had to be hospitalized for almost a week or more. They were trying to remove it. So this is what mother said. When he came out of the hospital, he told her, I don't think I'm going to live long, because too much lead has gone into my body, and it's possible that it will eventually poison me.
Wow.
Why am I narrating this story? Because it shows that probably there are many events that led to his death. Yeah. So the question we'd ask ourselves, if he was in Ghana, if he was still head of state, or just in Ghana with, would he have died so prematurely? Or would he have maybe had treatment earlier, better treatment? Then add to that the stress and from the setback, that his dream for Ghana, what he wanted to do, was cut short at a moment when he thought we were just on the cusp of our economic independence, having commissioned the Akosombo Dam and the Old Volta River scheme. So you have to wonder whether, yes, he got sick, but what were all the events and incidents, including the assassination attempts, that led to that premature death.
My goodness.
The stress, physical and mental and emotional, So yes, you can argue in many ways that he wouldn't have died when he did had things been different. But he never sold out and he left us that body of work. So, and after meeting Junes, looking at his work, as sad and tragic his human story is from a personal point of view, I find it so inspiring, so inspiring to know his story.
Yeah.
So because human suffering is one thing, but the lessons you learn from Kwame Nkrumah are so rich that you sometimes feel he's not dead.
Yeah.
He hasn't died. If you are an activist or a Pan-Africanist with conviction, you almost feel he's with you every day. Every day you have to go to a meeting.
I feel it every day on my breakdown show.
I'm
breaking things down.
Spurring you on, giving you the right words, the right mindset to make the right decisions, that you feel he's constantly there. You cannot somehow, even you try and forget him and then something happens. You hear an economist talking about food sovereignty, about the need for us to build our manufacturing base. And then you go back, but that's what he was doing. That's what he was telling us to do. That, we have to build our productivity, we have to have factories. And he started doing that. He didn't just say it. He started doing it.
Yeah.
So you keep on remembering, even if you want to forget,
you can't.
Nkrumah, you cannot forget it.
I was telling this to someone the other day, that it feels like Nkrumah's spirit is still haunting our continent, Africans.
Too much.
And, and to me, what that says is that there is still something that is unfulfilled.
Correct.
A promise. And as I tell you, I see him as a prophet. And he came here to lead Africa into something that God has ordained for our motherland. And until that promise is fulfilled, we will not find peace.
That's right.
Mahama recently, I think it was our last independence, President Mahama, he said that the loss of your father was the greatest setback for Ghana. You started talking about some of the things that he was doing back then. Can you just share a bit more about when he says that? What do you think he means?
Yeah, I think many of us will echo that statement. I dare say not just in Ghana, but in Africa, but in Ghana in particular, because just the one thing we all know, that everybody knows, not just intellectuals or, people who read books.
Yeah.
But the ordinary man and woman in the street, everywhere, the average Ghanaian knows, we are importing too much. The food import bill alone is over 3 billion annually.
Yeah.
And there are things that we could produce here if we get our act together.
We have the land, we have the weather, we have everything. Why are we not?
That can be still to be cultivated.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that the whole continent. I mean, Ghana is just a microcosm, but there you are. You are absolutely right. So, why have we not got our act together? And why are we not producing the things that we consume every day?
Yeah.
How come there were 4 sugar factories, 2 in operation, 2 more to be 6 years ago, and now we have to import sugar at this high cost?
My goodness.
Rice, you name it. We all know, anyone who goes to the market, who goes and buys food, even knows that most things are not produced in Ghana. So when you see this, and when you see the plan, the 7-year development plan, when you list the number of factories that were in operation, or just commissioned, then you sit up under the Nkrumah government. Even when you look at the mining, state mining company, there was going to be state mining. There was going to be a refinery.
In the 1960s.
95% complete. Do we understand what that means? Do we understand what we've lost by years of not having a state mining company and a refinery? So, of course, we understand that statement by President Mahama. I think we all know it. So the question is, when are we going to quickly get our act together? Because it's obviously the way forward.
Yeah.
And when you look at countries which have managed to do that, you know, countries which have industrialized, and you see where they are today. But you see, the beauty about our father's message is he didn't just give it in bits and pieces. He gave the full thing, the full thing. Because he also told us that it's going to be difficult if we don't integrate our planning, our economies with other countries. Because just in case we've forgotten, we were deliberately balkanized, divided, to be economically unviable. So in case we've forgotten. So if we don't take that bold step of doing away with these borders and just thinking continentally, it will be very difficult for us to build a proper manufacturing base. That's the only thing that will give us the standard of living that Africans deserve. And he didn't stop there. He said there are Africans all over the world. Now, if you put them all together, we are talking today about 1.6 billion people. Now, what is it that 1.6 billion people planning together today? What is it that they cannot do? You know, our GDPs, look at Ghana's, what's it annually now? I don't know, 2 years ago, if you read 2023 or 4, it was 76 something billion. Now let's check Japan, the US, Germany. US 27 trillion, Japan almost 5 trillion. So people are talking in trillions.
and we're still in the beast.
Yes. So this must tell us something, that there's something we still have to do, but we have the blueprint.
We have the blueprint. And I think that's the point that you said is what we miss, right? Because I've been saying this a lot on my show. We've been talking about Africa rising for as long as I can remember, since I was a teenager. Africa is rising. You know, The Economist put, the cover, Africa is rising. And Africa is rising. Africa is rising. And here we are in 2025. And Africa is still rising. When are we finally going to ask, what is it going to take for Africa to rise? We need that to not just be a slogan, but to be a reality. And I worry that, to what you're saying, unless certain chains are broken, we need to tell the truth that there are chains that need to be broken. And if those chains are not broken, if we don't take care of that business, Africa will never rise. And so I feel like we're not telling young people the truth.
Yes, because we are distracted. You see, we are distracted by partisan politics. Yeah. Domestically, we are distracted. We are fighting each other over important, not important, but the key word is that we are fighting each other. We are pulling each other down. We are overturning what one does. So we have the democracy we have imported. We are practicing it in my humble opinion, in a destructive way, not a productive way. Yeah. And we are not prioritizing, you see, because what is our priority? What is our priority? It's twofold. Dismantling the nation state that we inherited from colonialism and building our industries.
Yeah.
Now, if this becomes our focus, everything else will take second place. We are wasting too much time arguing with each other. We are wasting too much time doing things in piecemeals, not holistically, not comprehensive. And so we are not focused. Africa is rising in the sense that, of course, today you see tall buildings, you see better roads, but the reality is that the beneficiaries of this rising are a few.
Yeah.
It is something we have to admit to ourselves. They are a minority. The majority of the population of Africans is not rising.
Yeah.
Or if it is, very slowly. So what is rising is a few private hands. But the real independence, one person, one vote, means that everybody will feel it. This is what independence means. That people, the majority, the average African, will feel that rising. This is what we are waiting to realize. So there have to be some adjustments. Now, you said the chains. The chains are many. They are in our mindset has to be Pan-African, continental, not micro-nationalism. Micro-nationalism must go. We have to think bigger. That is one of the chains we have to break, you know. The other chain we have to break is the political elite, the leadership. Has to be of a different caliber, you know. And this is a great challenge because it takes a rethink, not only from the political elite, but from all of us.
The people.
Yeah. When are we going to stop being impressed by big cars, big money? When is money going to play a lesser role in politics? Because the way it's going, we are in a plutocracy, not a democracy, because it's money rules, money talks. But that is not good for us in Africa, because it means decisions will always be made by people who are different or living a different life from the majority of the population. And hence, you go back to Kwame Nkrumah. That is why he talked about socialism. But he even tried to reason with us, saying, you know what? You can say socialism is organized communalism or collectivism from our traditional African values. Not leaving anyone behind. No winner takes all. No, that kind of mindset. Because we have to somehow understand that we all have to be okay. Otherwise, there's no security, there's no peace. You know, there are all these social cleavages, there's tension, and we cannot reach our goal. We cannot build those industries this way, you know, because we will not be able to reach consensus if we don't think in an African, a truly African way, inspired by our traditional values, indigenous knowledge systems, if we don't tap into that. But he did. And that's why he explained where his socialism was coming from. That's why he said scientific. It has to suit your environment. It has to be applicable.
And it seems your dad was trying to build a unique model for Africa. That's what it seems to me, because here we are as a new nation, right? We've inherited we don't have a blueprint. we're importing Western democracy. Democracy works for the West. They've been independent for a long time. They know their challenges. And for them, that works. But I think maybe for him, he knew that Africa needed a new model. And you could even tell from some of it, because at some point he introduced, like life-term presidency, one state party. And because of that, some people say he was a dictator, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he was going through parliament to get consensus and approval for almost everything.
Thank you. Every single change or decision that was made constitutionally. I mean, this is a man who fought many elections before he came to power. 51, 54, 57, 56, I beg your pardon, the year before independence, and 1960. So this is a man who believed in genuine democracy.
Yeah.
Not just voting, but the democracy that delivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was simply also living his time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you look at most post-independent African countries, they followed the one-party state.
Yeah.
Not to terrorize opposition, but to focus on the mission at hand. In fact, it's the same Kwame Nkrumah who said that a one-party state in a new colonial setting would be the worst tyrant that you can find. So we are not saying, so those who criticize him for that, they have to understand the context and the circumstances in which this thing was born, this idea of a one-party state. So he himself said it, if there's no socialist-oriented program, you can't have a one-party state because then you are benefiting only a few. Mm-hmm. If you are in a colonial setting or new colonial, meaning someone else is directing your economy and your policy, then you can't have a one-party state. You are just going to be a tyrant. But Kwame Nkrumah was far from a tyrant.
Yeah.
I've researched it. I have it in the book. He didn't even believe in the death penalty. Even the man who shot at him and unfortunately killed his trusted bodyguard, Salifu Dagati, he didn't want him to be executed. Ultimately, he was executed because he killed another man, not for political reasons. Nobody was killed for political reasons under Nkrumah. His first Attorney General, Jeffrey Bing, states. But we know that about him, that he did not believe in the death penalty. Yeah. He did not amass wealth. So what kind of a dictator is that?
Yeah.
What kind of a tyrant is that?
Yeah.
He invited his opponents to work with him. One-party state in those days, and in his plan, his view, did not mean excluding opposition.
Right.
But rather than having different parties when we all want the same thing, industrialization, economic freedom.
Yeah.
So it will just
become a distraction. As it has right now.
Yes.
I often use this example of Singapore, right? When Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew visited Nkrumah in the early 60s.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
And he was blown away by what Nkrumah was doing.
Yes.
At that point, Singapore's GDP was just about half of Ghana's, for about $400 in present day value. Ghana was about $800. It was the third richest country in in Africa. And Lee Kuan Yew was so impressed. He was like, Ghana has everything. It has talent. It has resources. It has, an incredible visionary leader. It even has swag. He was just in awe of Ghana. And from that trip, he wrote in his book that he went back to Singapore determined to make sure that his country doesn't fall behind.
Yes.
Fast forward to today, Samia, and this is to prove your point. Fast forward to today, Singapore is one of the wealthiest nations in Asia. GDP over $153,000. Ghana, $2,000, still stuck at the bottom. What they had was the advantage of long-term planning, the advantage of one state that ruled for a while with strategic vision.
Continuity.
Continuity.
Yes, vision.
And when you look at Ghana and much of African politics, we're stuck in the cycle of 4 8 years politics.
Yes.
And every leader is bringing in their own vision. So how do we advance as a nation?
Yes. So we will move very slowly because of that stop, start.
Or not at all, because you're moving and someone else is coming in and undoing everything that's been done just to do it again.
When we have to do the same thing, it's one thing or two or three that we have to do. Absolutely, you're right. And this is what, so we have to question all this.
Yeah.
You know, we have to start doing something. Does our constitution needs changing? Yes.
Yeah.
Do we need to do away with the winner takes all? Yes.
Yeah.
Do we perhaps need proportional representation?
Yeah.
A way whereby we can have more women or more minority voices, just so that we can reach consensus on the most important tasks ahead of us.
Yeah.
There is work to do. Absolutely.
And, you know, I bring that up because I think that contest is so important when talking about Nkrumah, right? And I think for today and our generation, we completely missed that contest. We hear dictator, he wanted to extend presidential terms, but you have to understand why that was necessary at that point.
Why it was necessary and how he did it and what kind of a man was doing that.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you see Nkrumah, just spanning across the continent today, do you see traits of Nkrumah in any leader on the continent?
Oh, every now and then. And then you see Nkrumah in some things and others, of course. And you see these there are some young leaders coming up and they are giving us pause. They're making us stop and watch and listen. We will be following them. But of course, many of us, we are excited by Burkina, what's happening in Burkina Faso, Traoré. It reminds me of when our father was speaking on equal terms with the world.
Yeah.
You go to countries and you speak on equal terms. That's something that gave us a sense of pride. Leaders calling for modesty. Modesty in everything, not flaunting wealth or living a bit below our means. You are a leader. You lead by example. If you are going to be showing opulence off, can't blame other people for wanting to imitate you.
Yeah.
So yes, we admire all these traits in leaders who are coming up. But I think the most important thing is how we are going to tackle this important question about a union of African states. I keep on going back to it because Kwame Nkrumah, in addition to all his traits, all his contribution to Ghana's economy and so forth, but he also specifically talked about that union. He wasn't talking just about integrating, talking together, doing things in bits and pieces. So he gave us in his OAU speech, he told us how. And he said, a union of African states must have three objectives. Number one, continental economic planning. We have to get this into our head. This is how we will move forward. We plan continentally to make use of economies of scale. And that entails what? Common markets, common currency, single bank of issue, communication systems, monetary zone. AFCFT is trying to some of these things, but it's doing it in isolation of other things. And that's why we are moving slowly. But Kwame Nkrumah said this number one objective, very important. Economic planning on a continental state. Number two, common defense. Common defense strategy. to sit and think. Not all these different armies. We are even wasting money. Each country. Do you know that the defense budgets? You know how much we are spending? Different countries. We are spending a lot. Imagine if we started working together. We will even be able to address conflicts better and quicker. And we will grow up with the same mindsets, not people going to different schools of military schools all over the world, coming back with different ways of thinking. So common defense, very important. And number 3, common foreign policy and diplomacy. Talking until we have one voice on the international arena or stage. Thank you. Because we cannot be everyone thinking of doing. No, we are non-aligned. We'll be non-aligned. 1.5 billion people.
Yeah.
That will have an impact. That's the way we arrive on the world stage, and we'll be speaking on behalf of our people, what is good for our people, not for anybody else. Because with that, the clout and weight of unity gives us that confidence. Yeah. He said, in all other matters, apart from these 3, every state exercises independent authority. Nobody's saying we are coming to totally destroy your sovereignty.
Yeah.
No, you are a sovereign state, but like in a federation. Today, in today's day, you can say federation. You can exercise your independence in other things within your state.
Much like Europe, right? A lot of people actually say that the concept of the European Union was inspired by...
You are right. And would you believe? Yes. Recently, they were debating this common foreign policy and diplomacy.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Yes. So we in Africa, we gave the proposal for comprehensive unity before the EU, I beg your pardon, European Union, actually came into being.
Yeah.
Just as we invented mathematics, medicine, centuries ago, millennia ago, we also understood and presented the comprehensive unity document. Yes.
If this is something that is good for us, right? And I mean, when you look at the continent today, I don't know anybody that would say, I love struggle. I just want to struggle, right? Everyone wants to be free. Everyone wants to prosper. And here's a blueprint, a literal blueprint of how we do that, because we can say we've tried for the past 50 years. Okay, assuming, the critics, Nkrumah's ideas wouldn't work, right? Okay, we've tried other models for 50 years and we're still stuck in the same place. So there's a blueprint that we need to execute. We haven't executed that yet. Why do you think we haven't? I mean, in plain simple, where are we lacking? Is it the lack of political will? If this is good for us, why haven't we done it?
Yes, there are several factors. But I want to hammer on one of the main ones. We've agreed that Nkrumah's thought was suppressed, beginning from his base, our Ghana, more than anywhere else. I think many people will tell you when you travel out of the country, everybody talks about Nkrumah and Nkrumah's Ghana. So the full suppression, the killing of Nkrumah's ideas happened in Ghana more than anywhere else. And if your base rejects you, then it makes it harder for even sometimes others to understand. So the understanding has to begin in his base, because this is where it was born. This is where these ideas were born. Yeah. In his base and in Africa at large, So I am recommending, I'm pleading and urging that Nkrumah's writings become commonplace in our schools.
Yeah.
Particularly his thesis on African unity and on industrialization. Because that's the first port of call, our mindsets. How are we going to understand if we don't familiarize ourselves with those thoughts? Let us, if people are upset because of things happened in the past, let's put it behind us. I've even said, we are talking about some of these charges. He was a dictator. I mean, this is the narrative of the CIA, MI5 during that time, because part of the propaganda against him, it was now declassified documents are proving that.
I was going to ask about that.
Saying that.
So, yeah.
Even from the British intelligence, there was a deliberate attempt to tarnish his image and those around him. And it's stuck with us till today. So we need to address that. And I tell people, okay, maybe there were certain practices, because in every law, of course, there are excesses. Maybe the police, when they were detaining people, maybe they did wrong. Don't forget, 2 commissioners, Harley and Deku, and the Kwame Nkrumah police, high-ranking police officers, were part of the coup that toppled him. But these were the people in charge of the measures, that people accused Nkrumah of. So we have to think, maybe there were excesses. So I've said it. We apologize, we Nkrumah's followers, if anybody was hurt, unjustly hurt by any of these measures, we apologize. We are willing to apologize, because what we want is unity in Ghana. We are not about settling scores. I was telling my friend about my book. It's not about stirring old wounds, I beg your pardon. We're not stirring old wounds to settle scores. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Because we need to do something very important. Let's bring our country together, bring our people together to focus on the most important priorities. So we need unity.
Yeah.
Yeah. But part of what we need to do, the revision, is to reclaim Kwame Nkrumah's thesis. Because we've demonized him so much that our children don't know what he was talking about. They are not familiar with his writings. We've demonized him to that extent that we've suppressed his thoughts. Most people don't know what is contained in Africa Must Unite. But I bet you anything, no African would read that book and remain in the same mindset. It decolonizes our mind a little by little.
Yeah.
So we have to reverse the suppression of Nkrumahism. And number 2, it's what we were talking about. We need to make some changes, in our constitutions. Changes that will support this transition, because we are not going to move without serious changes. We are going to remain in this, this arguing with each other. But maybe there's something that can help us. We have a constitution which guides us, how we conduct our affairs, our governance. Maybe that's the first thing we must tackle, because it will help shape the way we think. And when our father was talking about doing away with the nation state, he was saying, we don't have to do it all the 55 countries together, because that might seem impossible.
Yeah.
But you know what? Nucleus, he said it, we can start with a nucleus of states. 2 states, 3 states, 5 states, 10 states, and then we can move.
Does the African Union today represent your father's vision of a united Africa?
I want to start by saying they are very good intentions. They are incredibly smart minds within the AU. we have to understand that, you know, because it makes it even more puzzling. Because we have very smart people. We have smart everything, economists, administrators, historians. We have people who can carry the continent.
Yeah.
And even some within the AU. But because we are not free as individual countries, because what is the AU? It's not something different from our individual countries, you know? So the work has to be done in our individual states. Because it's a reflection of our individual states, what comes out is weak confusion. You see, so that's where the intent is good. Even the 2063 document, the intent is good. But I tell you, it's nothing like our father's original concepts. But I dare say even the OAU was not what he had imagined. You know, I have a favorite story. I don't know if we have time.
We have time.
Okay, I
came here all,
one of my favorite stories.
Yes.
Because, you know, our father was very, very good friends with the great Julius Nyerere.
Yeah.
Tanzania. Yeah. Yes, and even Julius Nyerere helped our father after the coup. But there's a story I like. So let's go to Cairo, 1964, the OAU summit. This was told to me by someone who worked in the foreign affairs in one of our African countries. He was a young man watching this scene that left an inedible impression on his mind. Kwame Nkrumah gets up to speak, his usual passionate way, listing all the reasons why we must unite and the how, with all these proposals. Foreign ministers of our various states let us, that they can set up committees to look into all these proposals we talked about. Economic planning on a continental basis, common defense, common foreign policy, and everything. Anyway, he talks, the Sahara, big Sahara must not divide us, it must unite us. We can make it bloom with vegetation. I was already thinking of greening the Sahara.
Wow.
Solar power. Anyway, he makes this incredible speech. People are like in heaven with the aspirations and applauding. He sits down. The great Nyerere gets up to speak. But dismantling Kwame Nkrumah's arguments.
Really?
Yes. No. Regionalism instead of continentalism. That things have to be very gradual. But just dismantling, and these were two of the greatest leaders in Africa. So this man tells me the room went quiet because they thought, are these two giants going to knock heads? What's going to happen to us?
Yeah.
Nyerere finishes making also valid points. He finishes. Silence. Ooh. From just, then they hear alone applause. Someone standing clapping. Everybody turns. Who is it? No other than Kwame Nkrumah himself, applauding his colleague. And he said the whole room started, and tension dropped. And this is an excellent example of how we do it in Africa. It's not about proving you right and I'm wrong. I win, you lose. Everything you said is rubbish. Everything I say is perfect. It's not about that. It's not a competition. It's not even a debate. It's not a debate. It's about our lives. I mean, these two leaders meant well. Maybe they had different approaches, but they meant well. And our father was able to absorb this and just show that we are different. We never agree on everything. We don't speak the same language. We come from different ethnic groups, different religions, different everything.
Yeah.
But yet we can listen to each other and we can agree. We can agree in not on everything, but the common ground.
Yeah. Because we're all we want the same thing for the continent. We may disagree on how we get there, but we can respect each other's opinions.
And allow that difference and see where we can meet rather than fight and see where we can meet so that we can rescue this beautiful continent. So that's what we need to do. This is our Africanness. This is part of who we are. Can we tap into that rather than, listen to advice from everywhere except our own home? When and how are we going to do this?
Oh, what a great message for people who are watching. Your dad, as we've talked about, was ahead of his time. He was a visionary. And one just has to wonder, who are some of his mentors? Where did he get these ideas from? So I'm curious if from reading his books and letters, who did he look up to?
That's actually a wonderful question. Why? Because it's almost an example of how we can all grow. Because, he must have been gifted a bit as a young child, let's say that, because he did well in school, even in Hafasini, the Roman Catholic school, the missionary school where he started. But then when he came in contact with Dr. Agri at Achimota, he was very impressed by Dr. Agri's teachings. And I believe it's Dr. Agri who first introduced him to these Pan-Africanists, Marcus Garvey, across the shore, the ocean. And I think his interest in also studying further came from that. And don't forget, you couldn't get a degree in colonial Ghana. You had to travel abroad to get a degree. Yeah. So I think he was inspired by Agri to go to the States. And he did just that. And there, because of his circumstances, that he wasn't from a privileged background, he had to work very hard in restaurants, in soap factories, fish, I don't know, the place where they clean the fish. So he had to do all manner of jobs. But he also taught a bit, preached in Black churches. So what I'm trying to say is that he immersed himself in America and in Black America, Harlem, everywhere. So he met Pan-Africanists. Yeah. He was inspired by the Du Boises, the Huntons, the Williams, all these great Pan-Africans. So he himself said Pan-Africanism started not on the continent, but by Africans born outside. And that shaped his vision that Africa is not only a geographical place. Africa is Africans everywhere.
Yeah. And I think particularly Lincoln University. He went to an all-Black university, the first.
Yes,
HBCU.
Yes.
And that's where he met a lot of the thinkers and leaders of the civil rights, who would later, lead the civil rights movement. And to your point, when he was at Lincoln at that point, Harlem Renaissance, he became very good friends with one of the critical thinkers of the Harlem Renaissance era, and so many other people at that time. How do you think, I want you to talk a little bit more about that. He also met the president, he was classmates with the president of Nigeria.
Azikiwe,
Azikiwe, Nnamdi Azikiwe.
For sure.
And they came back and, fought the fight together. I think a lot of the times that context is also missing, right? Because there were movements happening in that part of the world. Black people were fighting for, their freedom in America. And Kwame goes there, Nkrumah goes there and is inspired, I'm sure, by the leaders that he is meeting at Lincoln University, where we know what they taught was Blackness, right? They inspired and empowered Black people to think independently.
Yes.
And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how you think that impacted him.
It had a tremendous impact on his thought. I mean, that's where his Pan-African thought developed. No doubt about it. And what became crystal clear to him, that the Black man all over the world is struggling to regain our dignity. Because the same struggles for human civil rights, it's very similar to the struggles against colonialism, settler colonialism, apartheid. Very similar struggles. The point is, how can the Black man regain our dignity?
Yeah.
So everything Black Americans went through, he experienced, because he wasn't a privileged also person. So he was going everywhere. But so he talked to workers, lived with them. He also talked to intellectuals and lived with them. So those 10 years were crucial in the development of his Pan-African thought. So by the time he goes to the UK, he meets George Padmore, the great Trinidadian lawyer who became his advisor on African affairs in Ghana. He came back, just like Du Bois was invited here to help us with the Encyclopedia Africana, rewriting our history, like you said, shaping our narrative from our own perspective. There was from the 60s, we're going to start on this mega project to rewrite the history of Africans. But of course, it was truncated after the coup. In fact, our father writes in Dark Days in Ghana that more than anything else, even more than loss of political power, what hurt him and disturbed him was the loss of his copious notes that he and Du Bois were working on for the Encyclopedia Africana.
Wow. So your father understood the importance of narrative.
Absolutely.
Documentation.
Very much.
Telling our own stories.
Yes. So we were saying, by the time he goes to the UK and meets up with Padmore, who was receiving him, CLR James had a note from Padmore. This man says he wants to liberate his country, take care of him. Anyway, he and Padmore, they got on very well. And so they start working on organizing the 5th Pan-African Congress in Manchester with Dr. Du Bois as the chairman and Padmore and our father as the joint secretaries. And this conference played a very crucial role in decolonization, because they came out with this resolution: colonized people of the world, unite. So this idea of uniting against the system, that was, and many leaders, Jomo Kenyatta, many liberation leaders were there also. Then by the time he's invited to come and join the UGCC, the movement, the independence movement here, he comes back with this solid Pan-African thinking. So by the time Ghana's born as an independent state, it's not a normal African independent state. Ghana was born as a Pan-African state. That was the thinking. That's why he had the courage to tell his people, our independence is meaningless. We are dancing, celebrating. But let me tell you something. If it's meaningless, if the whole continent is not liberated. So that's a Pan-African declaration. So Ghana became the Mecca for liberation movements, training ground. We helped countries like Algeria, who lost 1.5 million people fighting the 7-year independence war, to decolonize. So Ghana became the hub, the heart, but all this is Pan-Africanism in action. So he says he came to Ghana, and Ghana, Pan-Africanism returned to its original home, to its Africans. So his years in the States with Black thinkers, Black students, Black workers, his years in the UK with, again, Black thinkers and workers and people, that shaped, that consolidated his Pan-African thought. And he came back to make a contribution to this, the liberation of Africa and the unification. So he comes out with this definition of Pan-Africanism. I mean, there are many definitions, but he comes out with one of them. He says it's the total liberation and unification of Africa under a union government. Of course, he had socialists, because that's what he believed, that, you know, that we have to raise the standard of living of our people. Socialist-oriented policies, which we are now talking about. Free education, medical care, talking about that.
Keeps coming back.
Of course, because we even, and not just Ghana, and many nations who are doing fairly well.
Yeah.
Thinking of that. Today, socialism is not a bad word anymore. So you have the candidates for mayor in New York.
Yes.
Talking about
Of all places.
Yes,
right?
of all places. You know, we are no longer afraid of saying neo-colonialism. When he wrote these things, we are afraid. I remember 30 years ago, I was mumbling neo-colonialism, even myself. But now we are saying it because we've seen it.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I want to ask you about neo-colonialism, but before that, just to stay on the topic of the diaspora and the Black thinkers, what can you share with us about your father's relationship with MLK?
Oh, right. Now, you know, he was here.
He visited Ghana at some point.
1957. 1957. I mean, that's very important because he witnessed the declaration of our independence. So imagine the impact it had on Martin Luther King Jr. 57, what was happening in the States at the time. He came and witnessed, so he has this beautiful sermon, Birth of a New Nation, where he describes in minute detail everything about that evening, including what our father was wearing. And he even imitates our West African accent when people were chanting freedom, freedom, freedom. So he was so moved, impressed, and inspired to see African people, you know, just victorious, victorious. You know, it was a moment of absolute joy and victory.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a story we hear, even just to symbolize the moment. We don't know if it happened or not, but we hear it often. Because on that same night, you know, by the way, there were countries from all over the world represented to witness our independence.
Yeah.
And so every day the other day I found there was the foreign minister of Peru at the time.
Wow.
You just kind of, so I just imagined we could have a whole exhibition on that night, different reports, over 600 journalists, reports. Yeah, we can hold one, just a beautiful exhibition on all the writings of that day. But anyway, so from the United States of America, there's the official delegation led by Richard Nixon at the time. And so Richard Nixon is here to witness it, and Martin Luther King too, Louis Armstrong. And anyway, the story goes like this, that when the fireworks were, you know, done, everything, people start cheering and dancing and celebrating. Then Richard Nixon taps a black man who was, you know, just front of him. So how does it feel to be free? And this black man turns around and he said, I wouldn't know. I'm from Alabama. And story has it that this was no other but Martin Luther King Jr. Said, I wouldn't know what freedom is because I come from Alabama. So Alabama at the time, perhaps these two men would never have met in Alabama, but they met, their pictures with their wives, their spouses, their pictures for all time. They met in Accra in 1957. So that gives you an idea of that, how important that event was. We could make things happen that didn't happen anywhere. So that sense of euphoria with our achievements, this is what we are longing for. This is what we are waiting and hoping. We want to see another 1957. Just as Ghana declared its independence, we want to see a momentous occasion when maybe we will be announcing the Union of African States, the United States of Africa. I mean, I can't imagine what would be so, momentous, but something, this strong announcement. So that's back to that relationship. So you can imagine the impact of that visit on the civil and human rights movement in the States, and hence many important leaders at the time. Malcolm X was here, 64. And he wrote that the highest honor of his life was meeting Kwame Nkrumah. The highest honor of his life when he went to meet him. There were some trying to advise Nkrumah, no, he couldn't meet because Malcolm X was a dissident of sorts, if you like, in the States. But our father wanted to meet this guy, and they had so much in common. And if you see Malcolm's writings, you will see how much he got inspired and how much he dived into the whole African unity concept.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
What a story.
And imagine if this happens on a large scale. The whole of the Black world focuses on how we can work together to raise the mother continent.
Yeah. And I think that was your dad's vision too. And, reflecting now, there's a lot of talk about how Africa and the diaspora can be more integrated, and really our economic, the power that we bring to the table when we're more united. How did your father think about that? I know he was a big proponent for that and he saw the vision, but can you give us more detail about how he saw the diaspora, African Americans, Caribbean, Afro descendants in the Caribbean? How did he see integration for the Black world?
He made it very clear in his writings that Africa is a nation. It's not just a geographical entity or unit. It's a nation that transcends that geographically. So every African all over the world, wherever they are, the Caribbean, North America, Latin America, they are part of the African nation. And when you are part of a nation, you are part of its culture, you are part of its development, you are even part of its politics. You see, don't forget, it is not an accident that we have the research library for the George Padmore Research Library. The Du Bois, Dr. Du Bois, the Du Bois Center, these, and our father, these are three strong Pan-Africanists here on our soil, our ancestors on our soil. Now, they were part of government. They played a very important role in building Ghana, nation building. They were part of Ghana's nation building. So their input was as important as the input of a Ghanaian civil servant, a Ghanaian chief director of a ministry.
Wow.
You know, the Bureau of African Affairs in Ghana was headed by George Padmore. So you can see from even the actions that there was no difference between an African born out of the continent or born on the continent. And this is something we need to take cue from, because it's not just a question of the African diaspora or global family coming to invest economically. You know, that will come automatically if we get closer, if we familiarize ourselves with each other. Because we have to understand that centuries have divided us culturally. So we are not culturally cohesive. We are different.
Yeah.
We talk differently. We act differently. So there's some work to be done. You see, this unity project, another thing that I love about our father's message is he's saying it's not a sentimental, yes, there's some emotion, of course. When you visit the Cape Coast Castle, or where the enslaved Africans were taken by force out of the country, something happens to you. I mean, it's, but this unity thing, it's a project. We have to tackle it as the most important project for Africa in the 21st century. So it's something you have to work at. There are many hurdles. There are many difficulties. So we can't expect Africans everywhere to just come and invest. It's much more than that. What are we giving them? Because the time will come when they should be able to contest. They should be able to participate in every avenue of our life, political, social, economic. It cannot be peace. You see, this piecemeal, we are doing this, but we are not that. That doesn't work. You know, so we need to also, that's something we need to, in the years to come, look at. What does it mean for us to welcome the Africans from outside the continent or from other countries? What does it mean for us?
Yeah. Whew. So your father, he wanted Africa to be free, but he also warned us, as you mentioned, about neo-colonialism, right? Which he said would be more dangerous than the former, right? When you look at the continent today, are you seeing that? The warnings that he put on the wall? Are you seeing that across the continent today?
Of course. I mean, he wrote that book when he was head of state. He published 1965. He actually distributed it to heads. He had that habit, like Africa Must Unite, was distributed to heads of states in 1963 on the eve of the founding of the OAU. New colonialism was distributed to heads of states 1965 at Ghana was hosting the OAU conference. So he wanted everyone leaders in particular, to understand. He was in a large part talking to our leaders, because he was essentially saying the way we are going, we are neo-colonial states. Our dependency, our economic dependency will make us incapable of taking political decisions independently. Because once you don't control, your food, you are not food sovereignty, you are not energy sovereignty, you are not sovereign. In the most essential things, you are not sovereign. So you are liable to bow down to dictates, because you can't do anything. I mean, so it was a warning, it was a prediction. And we are grappling, no doubt about it, we are grappling with neocolonialism. And neocolonialism also assumes, unfortunately, that some of us are collaborators, either inadvertently or deliberately. I mean, we are not, but we become collaborators. And this is what we need to find a way of eradicating. You see, I made a point of saying that Father was talking to heads of states. Today, we want him to talk to the people at large. That's why we want his words to spread. Because today we realize that the real power will have to come from the people. You see? Because it's a young people, the students, the teachers, the thinkers, the intellectuals, the nurses, these are the people who need to hear that message. Because we tried it with our leaders, but maybe they were too entangled. We don't even want to think of the why. But what we want to think about is how do we get out of it? So the street, the African citizen must take this up. This is the call to action. That's the next phase. Is the African street going to take up Pan-Africanism? Are we going to dive into it, understand it, and take it up? Because that's when our leaders will listen. That's when our leaders will listen. Because they have constraints, but there are ways. We have constitutions. We have groups. There's a proliferation of Pan-African groups all over the world.
Your father he believed in partnerships, right? And he was very charismatic. He was friends with so many different nations. He believed in the power of allyship, right?
That's right.
I'm curious, what would he think about China and Russia and America? Their growing influence on the continent, but particularly China. China is building railroads, airports, railways, you name it. They even built the African Union headquarters.
That's right.
What would your father think about that?
Yeah. Now, I want to start from the beginning. In the 60s, China was not the economic superpower it was today. It was working towards it, but not yet. But it's that same Kwame Nkrumah who got up in the United Nations 61, that speech where he was voicing all the concerns about Africa, what matters to Africa. But because, like you said, he believed in partnerships, particularly with countries who were developing like us. That's why many of the factories, Eastern European countries, not only Russia, he was also dealing with Eastern European countries, India, with other smaller countries, Indonesia, here, there. Anyway, he got up to say that China cannot be left out of the Committee of Nations. Because at the time, China was not rehabilitated. That's at the time, 700 people, they have to be rehabilitated. He makes this impassioned. You cannot leave this big country out of the United Nations. That's not democracy. That doesn't make sense. Why am I saying that? Because I want to say that he already saw the potential, the economic power of China by the way he was organized. They were organizing. So he was friends with Mao. He went to the country to learn, what can we learn from these people, that society? What can we bring from them and use for our own development? But of course, that was Mao's China. That was communist China. Mao's China, of course, is different from China today. There are similarities, but it's different. But the emphasis in these partnerships, and our father made good friends all over the world. A little from India, a little with China, little with the US, little with Russia, everywhere. in fact, I heard that someone once made that comment that had Kwame Nkrumah been really pro-East, maybe the coup wouldn't have succeeded. But they saw that he was truly non-aligned. He was not with this, he was not with that. So what does that tell you? When our country, Ghana, was one of the founding members of the non-aligned movement, that the emphasis was on who? Was on Africans to build our countries. We form alliances, we do business with everybody.
Sure.
The US helps us a bit with the Akosombo Dam. The World Bank helps us a bit with it. Russia helps us with the atomic reactor, or with the Bui Dam at the time. The arrangements were ready. You know, China helps us with other things. So what does that tell you about him? Because our father used to say that you want to know how he was thinking, you look at his achievements, his policies, and his writings. So I imagine today he would have said the same thing. We don't want to be dominated by anyone.
Yeah.
We want to diversify. Even with Europe, continental Europe. I mean, he wanted to move from being dependent on trade with the US and Britain, the Anglo-Saxons, to continental Europe. So if you go to our embassy in Rome, for example, you would see that the ambassador's residence is one of the biggest. And I remember I said, why? Then you look at the history, his association with the founder of the ENI, Enrico Matteo, that great industrialist who was forward-thinking. We call him, even North Africa, they call him friend of Africa. So we were diversifying. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
The only way we are going to develop in the benefit of our people, to the benefit of our people, is if Africans are leading and fully part of this cooperation. Partnership that is mutually beneficial, no exploitation, whether it's coming from China, the US, wherever it's coming from. If it's not on equal terms, then of course it won't be to our people's benefit.
And do you think that's what's happening today on the continent? Do you see mutual partnerships or do you see exploitation?
We are weak. We are weak because we are, how can 35 population of Ghana, I think it's now that, how can 35 million people negotiate with 1 billion? And I mean, it doesn't even, you know, we are weak. We are weak. We are not in a strong position. And there are some aspects of all this that must work, that must change rather. I mean, the success of China and Africa stems from the fact that of non-interference in our domestic affairs, you know. That is one great advantage, which is making it easier because nobody dictates, you do run your economy this way, you don't, nobody dictates to you. There's mutual respect on that level. But we need to catch up. Africans, we need to catch up. And we have the ingredients.
Yeah.
We have the ingredients. Let's take a leaf out of China's book. I mean, China and India, these are huge societies. They are very different.
The blueprint is there.
Yes, the blueprint. Can we just, instead of just doing business with them, can we also take a leaf out of the book? Because we have the ingredients right here at home.
Yeah.
And we even have something extra. We have a budding, growing, young population. Something the whole world doesn't have. You know, this is something peculiar even to us. that God has blessed us with this, like adding, here you are. You not only that, you even have some young, healthy, potentially dynamic people to help you make that dream true.
Yeah. My goodness. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about Ghana, and then we'll wrap up. Given what your father has done, his just what he meant for Ghana, for the continent, for the world, do you think Ghana has done enough to honor his legacy?
We have tried, but definitely not enough. And the first thing, as I said, is where's his thoughts in schools, in universities? Where is it? Doesn't exist on a very small part. Then you look at even the airport, the gateway to Ghana. How can it remain with the name of one of the coup leaders? You know? So no, we haven't yet. There've been attempts, but even the president saying at Independence Day that it was a CIA-backed coup, that's something too, because for the first time on our independence anniversary, we are acknowledging what now the whole world knows. The declassified documents have shown it funded, masterminded, even dissidents were given money to operate. I mean, there's wonderful books coming every day. We're quoting Kwame Nkrumah, even being inspired by him to look into the declassified documents. So, yeah, but the first thing is let us revisit his thoughts. There are many things named after Kwame Nkrumah, and he wasn't the kind of man. He was a very modest man, and he didn't want his name just everywhere. So even the airports, we are saying just let it go back to its original name. We don't even want it to be called Kwame Nkrumah. It was called Accra International Airport. So Kwame Nkrumah, I don't think he needs even more accolades, but his thoughts, his ideas.
How do we make that scalable? Not just here in Ghana, but across the continent. I think that's what you're saying. That's what he would want.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is really what. And can we please look at his industrialization drive? You know, and we can tweak it. Okay, at the time Kwame Nkrumah was talking, the Ghanaian African too entrepreneur, they were very few. I mean, there was no private capital to talk about. So of course the state had to lead, not just with giving advice and saying what we should go, what we should manufacture and where. The state had to take up these coming out of colonialism. But also there was no private capital to speak about. So today we can tweak those plans and accommodate the budding private sector. But you need a development state that will facilitate, direct, advise, you know. We let us revisit also, not just his thoughts, but also his economic vision for us. That's when I think Ghana, then we would have arrived and we will see the benefits.
So now let's turn to you, right? You have achieved such incredible milestones on your own. You've had an incredible career, a trailblazing career. I want you to talk about that, right? And how you're hoping to carry on your father's legacy through the work that you're doing, through some of the work that you plan to do. We've talked about some of them. I would just love for you to talk about this moment, what it means for you as you reflect on the past, but also on the future.
Yes, I returned home the second time because, you know, we left in the early 80s. Things were difficult. That's another story altogether. Mother couldn't take it anymore. She felt she was neglected, and which she was. I mean, they were very hard times. So we left then unceremoniously, very difficult circumstances. And honestly, I thought I'm never coming back. something happened when our mother passed away, and the government very kindly agreed for her to be buried next to our father in the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum today, 2007. Something happened to me, my mind. Particularly that, of course, at the time it was President Kufuor. So let's put it this way: the traditional political opposition to Kwame Nkrumah, olden days, in the old days, those were the people in power, their descendants, so to speak, even politically.
Right.
But they still honored our mother. And I tell you, when I stood there, and our father is there symbolically, of course, our mother is there. So I thought, so what am I doing staying outside the country? At the time, I said, how can I remain away? So this must be a calling. And I thought, this is the second time our mother is bringing us back, you know? And I think it was at that point that I thought, no, let me come back and try and make a contribution to that great legacy. So I decided impromptu, everything, not much planning, And then it coincided at the same time when one of the smaller parties that claimed the name CPP, and I'm putting it this way for a reason, because to me it made sense. This is the party I must join. It's the same party with the name of our father's party, and I joined, and I was elected to parliament because I think nobody thought I was a threat. You know, I'm coming, this new girl, doesn't know anything and not familiar with the terrain. So I think nobody expected me to win, and maybe that's why I won. I wasn't seen as a great threat at the time. So the way I put it, I was allowed to win. I mean, we worked hard, don't get me wrong. I worked very hard, and that has been actually the education of my life, because what would I have been doing in rural Ghana if it wasn't for politics? But rural Ghana, politics compelled me to travel to places I would never have gone. Take off my sandals, walk barefoot, cross rivers, get into... And as chairperson, which I eventually became of the party, I traveled to every constituency in Ghana. And I saw with my own naked eye what needs to be done. I would never have understood the industrialization drive of our father. Why the meat factory has to be here, why the tomatoes factory has to be here, why the dam was where it was, you know, why did the glass factory, the tire factory. So I saw our country. I understood even better the land, as you started the interview saying, all this land waiting to be cultivated, potentially arable land. That's the wealth of Ghana is in rural Ghana. And the day rural Ghana develops, we would have arrived for sure. The way rural Ghana develops as our cities, Accra, Kumasi, in a better way, of course, because we have our own challenges. But that has been the education of my life. But domestic politics comes with many challenges. And what I saw, unfortunately, is that Kwame Nkrumah's CPP of the First Republic is not the CPP of the Fourth Republic. I have now come to the conclusion that, number one, definitely, if Nkrumahs, if we want to come to power again, we must regroup. We must have a strategy, not to have 5, 6 parties claiming to be Nkrumah is so inspired by Nkrumah. That can't work. We need to regroup. But better still, party politics must be practiced in a different way than what is happening in other parts of the world. Here, with our extra knowledge from our indigenous knowledge system, African values, we must practice it differently. And we will. It will happen. We will reach that point where we will realize that we have to add our Africanness to what we are doing. You know, and so I believe at this point that, let's definitely do away with the extreme partisanship. And I want to see the day when people from different political parties can work together to govern Ghana. Because we have good people everywhere. And the task ahead is so serious that it requires humility. Humility means you compromise a little on even ideas. It requires selflessness. That means you sacrifice a little power. You sacrifice a little power. You sacrifice a little wealth. So selflessness, humility, and of course being armed with that vision, collectivism. That vision for our collective action, Pan-Africanism.
Sonia, would you ever run for president or consider running for president?
Okay, this thing we are thinking about is not one man or one woman's work. You know, it has to be a collective. It has to be a collective. Now I'm only thinking of my book. That book that has to, this is my tribute and memoir. To our father. I have to do it. You know, I have to do it for the legacy. So now, to be honest, I'm not thinking beyond that and the Kwame Nkrumah Foundation, which we want to put up. We will launch it, and we are going to bring back all his thoughts. Everything on him has to be housed under one body.
Let's talk about the book, right? So this will be the first time you're writing a book on your father, which I think is long overdue. This is so much needed. So what is your vision for the book? What can we expect? What are your plans for it for people who are watching to know where to go?
It's
after this?
Let's say it's my perspective on what happened to our father, to us, what happened after him. So it's living with him, not with him physically, but of course with him, his shadow, his influence, and what we need to do and what we are doing and we need to do. So it's a tribute to him, but much more. There are so many anecdotes people don't know about, but they all go to support his life work and bringing out the fusion between his public and personal persona or life. Everything he did, everything was inspired and driven by his politics, including his Pan-African marriage, that union. That even was driven by political motivations and with the intention of bringing North Africa closer to the rest of the continent. And it played a great part in that, you know. So I want to bring all this out to remind us. Some stories would have been told before, but we will tell it again from our perspective with so much of giving our mother, the woman who upheld his legacy in her own unique way, giving her a voice and just touching on things maybe we haven't heard before.
Do you have a title for the book yet?
Oh, for now I'm toying with it, living with Nkrumah. I'm toying with that idea, living with Nkrumah, a memoir, a tribute to our father. but it's it's just a small way of
it will not be small.
Honoring
it's big because it's needed, right?
I hope it inspires the younger generation. Above all, I hope it inspires them to read him, to study him, to be inspired by him.
I cannot wait. I can't wait, and I know everyone watching can't wait. Samia, this has been I don't have the words for it, honestly. Thank you so much for coming to share your story, your truth, your perspective with us today. I do hope that everything that you've said comes to fruition, right? Not just for Ghana, but for the continent. And I do hope that the book that you're writing and the work that you're doing through the foundation. And by the way, how can people learn more about the foundation?
Yes, soon we have our website. Yes,
so it hasn't launched yet. You just got it.
We haven't.
So that's exciting. But I do hope that the work that you're doing, really, not that I hope, I know that it's going to advance your father's legacy in such a meaningful and impactful way for our continent. So please continue doing what you're doing. And before I let you go, can you just share with us, what was your father's, what was his favorite food?
Oh, right. Yes, that I have in the book, of course. But that I have in the book. So he loved abunubunu, the green soup.
Oh, yes, really?
And he had some very good women friends who would cook it for him, especially when he goes to Brongahafu, to Sunyani. He would order it with snails and everything. But that was
snakes?
Snails.
Oh, snails. That's what I heard. Snakes. What was he listening to? What was his favorite music?
Oh, he loved high life. He was a good dancer. He loved, I mean, don't you see that twirl?
I do, yes. That's where my imagination
that's our
went.
African spirit. Yes, he was a good dancer. And he loved, back to food, I mean, he always ate with his hands. He ate our local food when we, when we had our private, when he ate with us, basically. Yes, so he was very big on that. But let me just say also before we go, that I'm also grateful for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, very important, because these, independent channels, this African narrative, the subjects, the topics you pick, the way you approach them, we definitely need more people like you, because you are part of this reshaping our narratives, telling our stories from our perspectives, choosing what we want to talk about. That's part of the awakening. So the role of the media, of thinkers like you, people who are putting things across boldly, without any alignment, without any motive, you are informing and raising awareness. It's very important in the Pan-African struggle, because that's our most important struggle today. Pan-Africanism actualized in our lifetime. So,
thank you so much. And I'm glad that you mentioned during an interview that this was actually something that your father cared about, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. That's why the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, it went all over the world. I mean, you were listening to it all over the world in different languages. And yes, he very much cared about. When I was talking about Sam Nujoma, when the Namibian embassy here held its day to commemorate the anniversary of his passing, and we were saying that Kwame Nkrumah he even sent out material to all our embassies to educate the world about the plight of Africans living under settler colonialism and apartheid. So in today's world, it's like things going viral. News going viral.
Yeah.
So he did it. He was very concerned, and it was very important for him to bring things out to the world, for people to know what's happening and communicating, connecting with each other.
Samia, we have to have another conversation about this, because there's so much to, I think, discuss and dissect about your father and you and your mother and your entire family. I'm even thinking, what would Nkrumah think about AI, right, today? And I'm sure he would have some thoughts. Maybe he even wrote about it before, we knew what AI was. But please promise me that we can have another conversation, another sit down, and go even more deeper.
Absolutely.
I think this was such a great introduction. Thank you so much. And I really cannot wait to have another sit down with you and to continue.
Thank you.